Hello and welcome to Between the Lanes episode number 47. And as you can see in the box, probably to the right of me on your screen, might be the left, I don't know. On my side it's the left, so when I'm looking at the screen. But we have a special guest and kind of a fill-in. Ralph's not going to be on the show this week. He's got some stuff going on, and it's 4th of July, 2018. And happy 4th of July to everyone out there. So without further ado, we will introduce the special guest. Most of you will know him. Some of you may not know him, but Shane Parent of Port City Motorsports is a fill-in tonight. And he'll kind of be my wingman and bounce things off of one another and ask each other questions through the show. So, welcome, Shane. Long time viewer, first time guest.
Yep. First time go around.
So Shane's a USRA national champion in 4.5-inch stock car. He's raced wing cars, retro cars, and one thing he hasn't raced, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. So, without further ado, we're going to get into it. So, of course, find us on YouTube, like us. You can comment there. You can do the same on Facebook. Between the Lanes is the Facebook page. Go there and like us, and you can comment there and ask questions. And race results for last weekend. The winning reports. Chicagoland Raceway in the Chicago area of Illinois, one of the west suburbs. John Austin Promotions fun race. They have these fun races usually once a month up in Chicago between Mid-America and Chicagoland Raceway. And week before last, we were at Mid-America for John Austin's 69th birthday race, and last weekend, we were back up at Chicagoland for the monthly fun race. So in the Group F class, Mike Iga there in the center, he was the winner in Group F. Phil Kruder from South Bend was second. He's on the left, and Terry Watson from Indiana was third on the right. And then they run Group F with X12 arms in the setups. It's a little mini, Pro Slot FK setups with Group 12 arms. So Mike Iga was the winner in that. Terry Watson was second in a Mike Iga prepared loaner car. And hard body specialist Jim Kreider was third in that race. In the Millennium class, and people say, what's Millennium? I'll show you here in a minute. Pro Slot's John Miller, looking nice and silly there in the middle. He was the winner. I was second by a couple of feet over Terry Watson. In a Millennium car is a laser cut steel chassis that JK Products started making back in 2000. And I don't know exactly what year they quit making those cars, but they haven't been available for, several years, I'll say. So some of the guys up there in Chicago still have them, and they race them, I'm not going to say at every fun race, but they do. And they run, you can build your own motors. They use the FK or the JK Hawk setups with the removable end bells, and then they use either a Kofor or a Pro Slot Hawk American-made replacement arm. And that class was a lot of fun. First time I'd ever run it. So, and then in the F1 Retro class, I was the winner over John Austin and Lee Verdich in third. And then in GTP, the last race of the day, I was the winner. Terry Watson was second, and John Austin was third. And we ran, stamped steel chassis, flexi chassis with GTP bodies, and build your own contender motors. So the AWRA had a race scheduled at Thunder Road Raceway last weekend. It was going to be the Womp Around the Clock race. Don't have any info on the race. David Strouser, the son of the owner, had posted on Facebook something about his father having to have surgery, and they were going to open the raceway at 4 and hopefully have the race. Don't know if it came off or not, but if and when they post info, we will cover that in a future episode. And then they had the Hanover Survivor race. It's Lots of Fun Raceway in Hanover, Pennsylvania. And this basically was another version of the Gaithersburg 1100 race where they run Indy cars and then they run stock cars and go with overall lap totals, I think, for the overall champion. But in the IndyCar class, Bobby Davis Jr. was the winner, I believe by 1 lap over Josh Smith. Tim Hoffman was third. In the stock car class, Bobby Davis Jr. again was the winner. Gary Harmon was second, and Pops Davis, Bobby's dad, was third. So I'm sure the overall champion with overall number of laps was Bobby Davis. And then a couple weeks back, or a few weeks back, I should say, we talked about slot car racer Zach Woods, who is now starting to race real cars at South Bend Motor Speedway in a class called the Hornet class. And they're kind of like, I think they're front-wheel drive and they're compact type cars. And we celebrated his heat win a few weeks ago. I think it was his first race. He won his first heat. So last weekend he won his first feature race. And in between that time, the car got pretty tore up a couple weeks ago, and they didn't even know if they would be continuing on this season, but they got it back rolling and parked it in the winner's circle at South Bend Motor Speedway. So congrats to Zach and his dad Grady and all his supporters and family. So that's the winner chicken dinner report for last weekend. And
Sunday.
now there's some enthusiasm. So upcoming races this weekend, the 7th and 8th. The AWRA is at the Slot Car Track Concord for the All-American 500. And, Mr. I've raced everything. Have you raced a Womp Womp before?
I have not. I have tuned Womps.
I have tuned.
And I raced them around the track, but I've never actually been entered in a race.
So are you going to be attending this race this coming Saturday?
I would say that is 50-50. Well, I've been offered rides. I think I've even been offered to have my entry fee paid, but I have not yet committed.
So this is your opportunity to get that Womp race on your resume.
Yeah, I can put another, hopefully, if worst case scenario, participation plaque on the box.
There you go.
Everyone is a winner.
Everyone's a winner. And also this weekend is the USCA Summer Series event at Thaser Raceway in South Bend, Indiana. And the weekend of July 14th, we've got the King of the Cobra Endurance Race at the Slot Car Track Concord, which I know that you're going to be at that race.
Yes.
And the B&E Hard Body Enduro Race will be at Mid-America Raceway in Naperville, Illinois. And July 26th will be the Retro Race of Champions at Mid-America Naperville. So that's kind of some of the upcoming races and the next few weeks. So don't want to let anyone else forget that this weekend is also the Memorial Open House for Robert Park, which we've discussed the last couple of weeks on the show. And rest in peace, Robert. And I hope a lot of people show up for this memorial and remember Robert, past USRA national champion as well. So, do you know who those two are?
I have no clue.
I didn't. You know, and I figured Ralph probably wouldn't either. But this is Sherman and Peabody. The dog is Peabody, and used to be a cartoon years ago, and they would go in the Wayback Machine, and they would set the dial on a year, and go back into a year and talk about history or whatever. So we are going to go in the Wayback Machine, and we're going to go back to 1978 with a little history, because this week is the 40th anniversary of the first Wing Car World Championship, which took place in 1978 in Gothenburg, Sweden. And And we'll back up a little bit. In 1976, they had the bicentennial race, which was also like the USRA National Championship. They had the bicentennial weekend, July, I don't know if it was the 1st through the 4th, or anyway, so at that race, there were several Europeans at the bicentennial race, and they discussed the idea of having a world championship race and doing it in Europe in 2 years, and they left there and made it happen 2 years later. So it was a Haase-built King track. I don't know if this was the first King that Haase built or not, but it was a very early Haase-built King track. It was built somewhere and then brought in to a shopping center, kind of like a indoor walking kind of mall. They had 125 entries. The only class they raced was Group 7. So they had 125 entries. 15 countries were represented. This may have been the first race where a digital lap counter was used. Wasn't a computer per se. It was more of a digital type, I guess maybe electromechanical type lap counter. It was DigiSlot. A lot of Americans, if you were back in that time, might remember the, I think it was called the Swedaxi system, which was made in Sweden. And some of the tracks in America had that in the late 70s, early 80s. But there was a light bar somewhere on the track, and back then we always started the cars in a short chute leading into the 90. That was the American Raceways deal for many years. And the light bar was usually on that short straightaway coming out of the finger. And I can remember racing on a Swedaxi system in Chicago in probably 82, 83. And every now and then we might have to blow some air up into those light sensors because sometimes they may not count. Because they might get some debris in the slot or maybe something got on the light bulb. But it was kind of it was high tech for its time, but it was kind of archaic in a way because it had some problems. And then eventually the computers came along and computer lap systems, and we didn't have these bars to deal with. And so that was the trophy that the winner received, big nice silver cup. And the winner was Joel Montague, the owner of Cayman. Second was John Strachan, another Team Cayman racer. And Thomas Hansen of Sweden, not to be confused with Tom Hansen here in the United States, was third place. And that's the winner, Joel. And, it's kind of interesting because the TQ for that race, now you got to remember this is 40 years ago. So TQ at that race, and it wasn't a world record, but it was close at the time. They went 3:5:51. So just a shade over 3.5 seconds for TQ or a lap. And the high heat in the race was 69 laps.
Hey, 69.
Yeah. And the total laps ran for a 40-minute main was 492 laps. Now, that at that time may have been a world record. I didn't really dig deep enough to find out for sure, but because I can remember in 1982, 83 when they first went over 700 laps in a 40-minute main on a Haase King. So, when we think about this, okay, so TQ then was 3:55:1. The current world record now is 1.286. A high heat was 69 laps, and now your high heats can be 180 plus laps in 5 minutes. So they went 492 laps in 40 minutes, and the current world record for 40 minutes is 1,472. So roughly almost 1,000 laps more in 40 minutes. Now, of course, the cars have changed, the tracks have changed, but in 40 years, I don't know of any other motorsport that's probably increased like that in 40 years' time as far as speeds and stuff like that. So, and, in real racing too, a lot of your speeds are restricted or whatever by safety rules, etc. So it's kind of impressive when you look at it. So these four drivers were, well, three of these four drivers. On the left is Dan Bloodworth. He was the 1971 USRA national champion. The first USRA national championship is what he's recognized as. And then Joel, and then John Strachan, and then on the right is Bruce Adamson from Canada, who was also a Team Cayman racer. And the reason I kind of posted this picture was, Joel doesn't really actively race anymore, but he still makes, Cayman slot car products and shows up at races. And John Strachan and Bruce, I've seen them a couple years ago at Mark's Model World, and they show up now and then, and they kind of play more than they actually race, but they'll show up from time to time, and you'll see them at a slot car track. And Dan Bloodworth, haven't seen him in a long, long time, but he's still out there and not racing. But what is how's that saying go? What is new is old, or what is old is new again. So these guys still race to this day. So that's what I have for a little history and race results. And so let's talk about what's in the news lately.
Gotcha.
What you got?
I've been getting a lot of messages for the 24-hour enduro at Mark's, Ohio. Yeah. I know that's been kind of in my buzz for the past week or so.
Yeah, it's been quite a buzz for that race the last week. And a lot's happened in a week. I mean, Ralph and I talked about it on the show last week, and then put the wheels in motion, and things are happening, and lots of interest. Pro Slot kind of graciously stepped up early this week and announced that the motors they build for the race will have double ball bearings in them, which I don't think is necessary, but there seemed to be some outside concern that could be a problem. But, we raced puppy dog motors for years with the American-made arms, and we never had in-bell bushings come loose. And, one of the reasons they come loose in the Pro Slot FK motors is just because the armatures aren't balanced as precisely or as low, and they kind of run out of there. So I don't think it would be a problem with the Scorpion motors because they're balanced pretty well. And I haven't had any reports of anybody losing a bushing in a Scorpion motor yet. And I've raced Scorpion motors now, I guess, 5 races, and no problems, no issues. The motors run great. So, of course, we haven't run them for 24 hours, but I don't see there being a problem. So, a lot of questions about signups. The rumor is signups are going to team signups will take place on the 21st of July. And there's more details to follow on that. But I think what everyone needs to do, if you're planning on doing this, there probably needs to be team captains, and they need to get together with their potential teammates and figure out who their team is. They can be 4 to 8 men on a team and get ready to sign up on the 21st. First 8 in will be in the race. Anyone else will go on an alternate list, and then you'll have to pay a small deposit to hold your spot until the fees are due for the race down the road. So, and that way, if a team decides they want to back out or something 2 months from now or 3 months from now, and someone else could bump in or whatever. So can't really do the races around robin. And I think that, if there's some drivers that want to race and there's some teams that only have, 4, 5, 6, or 7 guys, maybe they can squeeze in a team somewhere too. So, and then, do what?
You can probably have a list of teams and then a list of guys wanting to be on teams.
Sure. And
I'm still open.
I haven't signed a contract yet.
I'm waiting to see what people offer.
There you go.
It's a haul for me to go up there.
We could have up to 64 people, and I think that's a good thing. And like I always say, the more the merrier. And we had 50-some guys up at the Flexi-Palooza, and everybody had a great time. So a lot of camaraderie and fun, and stuff. And I think we'll have the same thing with this 24-hour race.
Oh, yeah. And Mark, he'll feed us. So
Mark will feed us. So, other things in the news, Tri-State Raceway changed ownership. The previous owner, Terry Rice, decided he wanted to spend some more family time, and I guess was about ready to close the raceway. And then Frank Verley stepped up and has purchased or taken over the raceway. I don't know anything about their details of the deal, but Frank Verley is now the new face owner of Tri-State Raceway in Middletown, Ohio, and we'll be going.
Nice place.
Huh?
It's a nice place.
Nice place.
We went there. We went last October.
Yep, and we're going there in October again for the FNRS race in October, but not before.
I'll be at that one.
Yep, but not before we in August go to.
We're going to Staunton, Virginia.
Staunton, Virginia for the FNRS race, which that's just a few weeks away. I mean, 5 weeks.
Yeah, I don't even know. I'm getting ready to kick it up here. I was telling someone
5 or 6 weeks.
Yeah, I think it's 2 weeks after the Enduro or something like that.
It's like August 8th and 9th, I believe, is the date. I don't have it in front of me. But we'll be talking more about that coming up on future episodes.
Everyone's got to get the hotel so we'll know where the party spot's at.
That's right. And other newsworthy, I understand, I've been told through the grapevine that JK Products has became a USRA manufacturer member, and resubmitted products. So it looks like JK stuff will be USRA approved and legal for the 2019 Nats and beyond, I guess.
All right.
So
I see Randy. He's got his chassis submitted. I know he's been working on that for quite some time.
Yep. Did they have a name for their product line, or?
I just think it's RM Racing Products. He's got a Facebook page.
Okay.
I don't know if he runs it or if Walker runs it. If you message it and it's slow, it's probably Randy. If you message it and it's fast, it's Walker.
So RM has submitted a new Flexi type chassis. And
4 and 4.5.
4 and a 4.5?
Yeah.
Okay. And Mazzetti Racing has submitted a 4.5. And I believe a new GT12 chassis.
That'd be interesting.
Mac has submitted a new GT12 chassis. And, of course, it's on the scale side.
Right.
I know that Coford announced a while back he had a new motor can, C-can, that is of different material, so it's stronger, but it has less Gauss, according to his description. I don't know if the can itself changed in design or looks, but I'm sure that's been submitted. Other than that, I'm sure there's probably some bodies and.
Right.
Well, I know that the Diamond Head C-can setup from Argentina has been submitted. So.
I haven't seen it. I've seen it, but I haven't actually physically held one or kind of played with it.
I've seen them at Rogers and stuff. I mean, it's a pretty nice piece. I mean, I don't know performance-wise how it runs with everything else, but I'm sure it'll be competitive.
I'm sure once people start playing, there'll be reviews and posts.
Right. So at least 2 new C-cans and 2 new 4.5-inch chassis and at least 1 new 4-inch chassis. And I'm sure there's probably some bodies.
Yeah.
So
I was thinking.
And I don't know anything about the wing car side. I hadn't heard anything about the wing car side, but I'm sure there's probably some stuff there with being they've done.
Which I don't really follow wing cars.
Right. Well, I mean,
I do.
Right. A lot of the chassis guys already had chassis shorter than the old USRA guys,
right.
Like rule of 4 and 100, I believe it was, and so that stuff. Anything they already made, it was short, would be legal as long as they submit it. So. Yeah. So
after 2016, when I went to Atlanta, I think after that I was just like, all right, I had my go. I'm good.
Yep.
Not to say I wouldn't try it again. It just depends really where it's at and what's going on that year.
Right. So it's either Houston this year or Houston next year. So, and after that, well, who knows until next year.
I won't be in Houston. Russell, he'll be in Houston. I know he's been talking to me. I'm sure he's been talking to you. So
yeah, Russ Martin is headed to Houston. I mean, there's several people going to be there. So, and some people that say they're going won't go, and then there's people that haven't said anything that'll show up. So,
oh yeah, I think that's about any race. I'm not going. I did it before. No, and then I'm there, and they're all like, "I thought you weren't coming."
Right.
Well, here I am. It's kind of like the
and I know that there's several people from Texas that wouldn't have went to Tennessee, whether it was USRA or not.
Right.
And we're going to race in Texas because it's close to home. So that's pulled some of those guys out of the woodwork.
If I was retired, I'd probably go to both.
Would you?
Whether to race or just hang out. Yeah, I think I would.
How many more years you got to retirement?
Oddly enough, I'll be 36 on the 20th, and I just celebrated my 16th year working for the company I work for.
So 14 more.
Retire when I'm 40.
Okay, get your 20 in, yeah. Then you could be a slot car traveling superstar.
I'll buy a $1.5 million Prevost. George Fry's already said he'll be my hauler driver.
You'll be the chauffeur?
Yeah. And then we just got to get Bobby to retire.
Then the team goes on the road.
Oh, yeah. So
cool.
It'll be like Street Outlaws. We'll be at different events, signing autographs and kissing babies.
Right. So, yeah, there's like 7 or 8 interested teams, 6 or 7 interested teams so far for the Enduro. And, you know, we talked about this pre-show, like, and you brought it up how, you know, okay, so the record was set in 2005.
Right.
On a slower king track than what we're going to run on in Canton. Okay, so how much slower the track is. I mean, for example, I raced to Chicagoland last weekend, and the track was really it was good. I mean, it was rubbered up nice, and I had a good time, and I thought the track was in really good shape. And a couple of locals thought it had too much rubber on it, but I thought the track was fine. I know that we set some new time records and maybe some lap records in some of the classes for the fun racing deal. But, I mean, like retro cars, I mean, I'm going to say worst case scenario, the Chicago track, what they set the record in, might be a couple of tenths slower than Mark's Model World track, based on the retro cars I ran up there last weekend and based on what I've run at Mark's or what the track records for retro cars are at Mark's in the past. So now with a flexi car, they might be a little closer. But you can't, I mean, time has passed that 2005 record because they ran Flexi 5 chassis, they ran Death Star motors, they ran, the winning team, I think, ran a Parma Dome body. So the bodies have surpassed that, the chassis have surpassed that, and you know, we could run the Enduro with Pro Slot 16D sealed balanced motors, but I think to have a good race and ensure that everyone will finish, you know, just use an American armed version of a motor that's similar in speed. I mean, I know it's going to be a little faster, but again, time has passed that back. And it's 13 years ago. I mean, the technology and everything has changed in 13 years.
Right.
So while on paper, there should probably be a new record after that race. But that doesn't guarantee there will be a record because some team has to run that entire distance or part of that distance we may know with 4 heats to go that the record's going to get broke if nothing happens to a team or teams, okay? We may not know until the last 2 minutes of that race what happens because somebody could be very close, but because they had problems earlier in the race,
Right.
They do it or not. So, I mean, yeah, on paper and everything, yeah, it should happen, but that's not a guarantee it's going to happen.
Right.
So 24 hours is a long time.
You go to, you got your core guys. People look, one of those five is going to win.
Right.
It's not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed until it's over with. And then 24 hours, that's a lot of race. That's a lot of fatigue.
No track calls, except for braid up or track problem. I mean, rider won't be a track call. I mean, if you get off on the wrong lane coming out of the finger, you're probably going to get crashed into the 90. Now, what it does to your car is anyone's guess, but
hopefully the airbags deploy.
Yep, because there won't be any soft walls.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, like the race is built, it's a world record attempt.
Right.
And that's what it is. That's what it's about. So, I mean,
it'll be fun.
If it happens, great. And if it doesn't, well, then maybe the next year it'll happen. Because I'd like to see it become an annual event. But
you figure 8 teams with 8 people, that's what, 64 people?
Yeah.
That'd be a good show.
Yeah. And then, I mean, the worst it can be is 32. So it's going to be between 32 and 64 guys.
The biggest thing is going to be, where's everyone going to sleep? And do they snore? So.
Well, I mean, it depends on how many you got on your team and how you work your shifts and stuff. I mean, some guys could say, well, you 2 or 3 guys can go to the hotel for 4 hours.
Right.
Be back here at a certain time to marshal and pit and run the car. And then the other 3 more guys can go to the hotel for 4 hours. I mean, there's going to be some guys that are just going to be up 24 hours.
Yeah, I'd say it wouldn't be me, but I know how I am.
I hear you.
I wouldn't want to miss anything or just be there for the whole show.
If I get lots of pre-naps in prior to the weekend, I might be able to go 24 hours. But
it's like we say, take your naps and take your vitamins.
So
drink lots of water because we don't want you cramping up.
Right. So next week you're going to go endurance racing. That's what, 2.5 hours, like 10 minutes.
It's 10-minute heats.
10-minute heats.
It's 2-man teams.
2-man teams.
And so technically, both drivers are supposed to run all 8 lanes.
Okay.
So.
But it's 10-minute heats twice around the track.
Right.
16 heats.
Yep. So it would be 8 heats for me and 8 heats for my teammate.
Okay, so it's 160 minutes, which is a 2.5 hour enduro, basically, roughly.
Right.
Well, 2 hours and 40 minutes, I guess.
Yep.
So.
I'll leave the numbers to you. That's a lot of crunching right there.
Well, like I said, the longest enduro I've run is 12 hours one time.
Right.
I've run a few 6 hours, and the longest I run any time straight was 3 hours, which didn't really bother me. But
well, you figure once you're in the swing of things and racing, it's kind of mind over matter, Because there's been plenty of races I've raced, and it's like, I feel great, and 30 minutes down the road, I'm passed out, and Bobby's yelling at me saying I'm snoring.
Well, if you're standing at the controller panel and you're more worried about or concentrating more on your legs hurting or your feet hurting or standing there, you probably shouldn't be at the panel.
Or wear your racing socks like I do.
That's right. And
people make fun of them, but my legs don't cramp. I haven't fell yet.
Bring your soccer slides and your comfy shoes.
They're also the what was it? Was it 2017? They were the skee ball champion socks.
That's right.
Proper balance and technique.
No, that was 2018. That was just this last.
Yeah, that was in February.
Yeah. See?
Fun race.
So. Yep. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure it'll fill up. And I talked to Mark. He's looking forward to it. He's all gung ho, and
right. I'm sure he'll fill up. I think last time I counted, there's 14, maybe 15 after today teams that are going to be at Randy's.
Wow. 15 teams.
15 teams. That'd be 30 people.
So you're going to run a big round robin then?
Yeah, probably. I'm not really sure how Randy is. He kind of just goes by the slide things, but I believe it'll probably be round robin, which is fine. I mean, whatever.
Or you could run 2 races. One group runs.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that'd be. I don't know. I was gonna say that'd probably be long, but it wouldn't be no longer than running a round robin.
Well, depending on how his lap counting system is, I mean, you could run the first group their 8 heats, and then the second group their first 8 heats, then come back and run the first group their second heats, and
just kind of total it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
We could do that. I mean, there's a lot of ways to do it.
Right.
So, yeah, because
I know some guys practicing, and they messaged me, "What are we doing with tires?" I was like, "Well, your tires are going to wear out." It's like you gotta have a lot of spare tires, spare gears, guide flag, braid. I think you're allowed to change body. You're allowed to change motor.
Now, have you ran an enduro race before this?
It was funny because I think the last episode you and Ralph were talking about the enduros, and he probably will remember this now. We ran one at 109 with the 4.5-inch old school stock body cars, and that's they had it set up, and I think if I remember correctly, when it was all said and done, there was no team. It was just one driver, and you had to run. I think it was 5 or 6 minute heats. How long the heat was, and there was, I think, close to 30 people there. They started the race, I think it's 6 or 7, and I remember I raced all the way through, and then I had to sit out and come in the last heat, and that is the first race I'd ever looked at people and said, "I'm taking a nap, wake me up when it's my turn."
Right.
And I think they finally woke me up, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and they were like, "Hey, it's your turn to race." So, that was a pretty good marathon.
And how many hours was that race?
I think they started at like 6 or 7 in the afternoon, and I raced the last heat. And the last heat was, I think it was at 2 or 3 in the morning.
Okay.
Ralph won that race.
So it might have been an 8-hour race.
Yeah, I think something like that. The thing was it started off, we're going to do so many minutes. And then whenever he realized, wow, we got a good bit of people here, they were like, maybe we should shorten the length up. And I want to say they came up with, it was either like an 8 or 5 minute heat was what they came up with.
And how many teams, man teams was it?
It wasn't teams. It was just one driver, no teams.
Okay.
So, and I think, if I remember, you could probably scroll through and look. Guy would probably know for sure because I know he was kind of part of helping it. But I want to say I know there was at least 25 teams.
Okay. So Ralph won that race.
I believe he actually borrowed a chassis from me.
Okay.
Whenever I got there, I was like, "Here's a 4.5-inch chassis." I think I'm not 100% sure. I know he ended up winning. I don't even remember where I placed. I was just glad it was over. Nothing happened bad. It was an all-nighter.
Right. Cool.
And I didn't have racing socks. So if I had my racing socks, well, things could have changed.
There you go. The secret special socks.
Yeah, I may have a back brace for this one. I haven't made up my mind yet.
Back brace.
Oh yeah, just in case I get the gangster lean going over the track, or as we like to call it, the Ron Hirschman.
You need a frame that you can kind of lean in or whatever, and just.
Well, the wall is not too far from the driver's panel.
Right.
But I'm afraid if I lean up against the wall, I won't be able to see around some bellies. So there should be a belly line.
Well, see, at Mark's, you're supposed to stand behind the line, but.
At Mark's, I'm always up on the panel.
Well, I am too. I always like to be up on the panel, like.
Right.
Kind of. I don't say I lean against it, but it's there if I want to lean against it. Like.
Did you see the video from where we were doing our test runs at Randy's?
No.
You got to watch that. It was me, Bobby, and Walker. I was like, "Hey, let's do the Ron." So we were up on the panel, leaned probably over past the yellow lane.
Okay.
Yeah. And I ran my fastest lap while doing that.
Leaning out and over?
There it is.
Well, see, back in the old days, it was like a contest who could lean out over the track the farthest.
Right.
I don't know why, but.
I like to lean up against it sometimes because it kind of helps me not lock my knees.
Yeah, there's been times I've had, I know what you're saying.
And then qualifying, I'm always a joke to watch qualifying because people say I look like I have Tourette's because everything's shaking and moving and I'm doing this number here.
See, and years ago, I always used to hold my controller with two hands. I can't really do that anymore. I mean, like, kind of a one-handed.
I'm left-handed. I'm right-handed, but right. Everyone always laughs and says, "How do you race with your left hand?" I'm like, that's what I do. If I try to race a car with my right hand, yeah, that's rookie.
Wow. Because the majority of people race right-handed.
Right. That's the only thing, left-handed. So I've been to races before, and they've been like, "Hey, try with your right hand." I was like, "I'll try, but you got to turn marshal."
Can't do it.
I can't. I mean, I can maybe make a lap or two,
right?
But since I was a kid, it's always I've never noticed. And then as of recently, probably 8 years ago or so, we were at a race, and a guy was like, "You ever notice you race with your left hand?" And I was like, "I don't pay it no attention. That's just what I'm comfortable with." When I raced RC cars, I did it with my left hand.
We used to race with a guy that would stand there like at ease with his hands and controller behind his back.
Yeah, I've seen that. Bobby races with his hands in his pocket. I can't do that.
Yeah, I can. A lot of times I'll have my hand in my pocket while I'm racing.
Now I'll put my right hand on the panel or like on the I don't know what you call it, the board. I'll do that sometimes. Yeah. Yep. Then you got to use the crate. I'd be afraid I'd fall off of that.
Well, that's like at Chicagoland last weekend. They have two little stands for red and white lane.
Right.
And
they had those at Tri-State too, didn't they?
Yeah, you definitely need it for red and white to see the dead man. Yeah, I do. I mean, if I got my rhythm down right, I don't really need it, but I do like to see my car.
Right, that and see traffic. Make sure you're not touching anything. So I mean, you were about the same height, so.
But there's been times at Tri-State because, one time they had a couple of milk crates or milk carton crates, the plastic.
Right.
We had a grocery store, and they had two of those. And there was one time I was on that, had my left foot on one, and right foot on the other, and it was like kind of like I was getting dizzy standing up there. It was kind of like my equilibrium was off a little bit.
Right. I was always afraid of the controller because depending on how long your wires are, I'm always afraid something will happen and I'll pull my controller off.
Well, the pain in the butt is when if you have to stop and do something to your car real quick.
Yeah, you got to jump, catch your shin or something.
No, you got to kind of get off those to get down to the level to be able to grab your car because you're up so high.
Yeah.
And then you bend over, and it's like now my balance is way off because your knees and stuff's up above.
Get wobbly.
Getting wobbly. Take a header onto the black line.
Oh yeah.
Block the track.
Oh yeah.
So what else you got?
Let's see. I think we went over the enduro at Randy's. We got the FNRS race at Staunton. That's coming up.
Yep.
That should be fun. We're doing what? LMP, GTP on the King, and then Forge NASCAR.
Stock car on the oval.
All right. What time do you think y'all will get there for that? Is it just you, or do you know if Terry's going yet?
Well, Terry says he wants to go, so I'm planning on me and Terry coming. So,
those Street Outlaws. This is the official call out. Terry, you're going.
I mean, you know what? I don't think he watches the show.
No? Oh, you got to watch it.
He may watch it because you're on here. I don't know. But no offense to Ralph. I'm just saying he might just – I mean, he's watched some of them in the past, but he's not a –
We have to tell him this is his official call out. So he has to watch it. He has to go.
So I'm going to predict if he goes, we go together. We'll probably leave early Friday morning. I'm thinking it's 8 to 9 hours there.
Right.
So we would probably arrive there 2 or 3 in the afternoon. Kind of like the same deal like when I go down to Durham or when I went to Durham.
Right.
Because
I think I'm off Friday. I'll leave to go to Bobby's, which is about 3.5 hours Thursday after work. And then I think they open in mall hours. They open at what, like 10 or 12?
I think they open at 10.
And so we'll probably be there whenever they open or shortly after.
Okay. And then
you'll show up and I'll go a tenth faster. At least that seems to be the trend.
Is that the trend?
It has been the last couple of races.
So if I don't show up, you're going to be slow. Is that what you're saying? Or a tenth off?
I'll be a tenth off. Yeah, unless I pull it together. I'm hoping to get the hauler parked and take it off and kind of be ready to rock and roll. I talked to Bobby today and told him, I was like, our enduro cars are ready, which that's a week away, so that's good timing. And I was like, the only thing I got left really to work on now is just stomping.
Yeah, I think it should be a good turnout. I mean, you and Bobby will be there, and I think
Randy, Walker.
Yeah. Pete, and Anthony.
Yeah, Anthony, Pete.
Probably Teddy.
Guy. Teddy. It'd be a good time. I mean, there'd probably be at least, I don't know. There's rumor that Mike Lowry is going to be racing at the Enduro this week.
Oh, cool.
Or not this weekend. So I'm going to talk to him and say, hey, you want to go? I have cars. I have motors.
Right.
Put him back in the swing of things.
And,
this will be a good one.
I think Fast Freddy will be there.
Nick Brantley and Ralph.
Nick and Ralph, and
that can be a 4-inch NASCAR call out. Put some money on the line.
And maybe James Merriman. I think Ralph said he might be interested in going.
That'd be cool. Elmo
from Ohio had talked about going.
Right. Yeah, I think I remember that from the Michigan when we were up there for the Lexipalooza.
Yeah. So, and I mean, and there's a lot of racers, local racers there too. I think will be there. So,
right.
I think
it'll be a good time. You can go to a new track.
New track, different track, in a shopping mall.
Right.
To me, that's the coolest place to race in, is a shopping mall. I've raced, like we're going to race inside the raceway that's, in the mall.
Right.
But I've also raced out in the mall, which is even cooler yet because you just get a zillion.
Like a courtyard.
Yeah, zillion spectators.
It's one way to get it out there and publicized what's going on.
Right. But
we had a track here at the mall one time, and I told him, I was like, if you make the store bright and you put the store close to a courtyard, people will come just because, one, they're going to hear the noise and wonder, what is that? And
Well, we had a Fast Ones 500 race in 1996 in Fort Wayne at a big shopping mall there. And like you said, when people heard the cars,
right,
they would come in to see what that was. And when there was no cars running, the store kind of empty.
Yeah, they just kind of walk by.
But as soon as they start making noise, people boom into, because you couldn't. The way that store was laid out, you couldn't look in and see the track. The track was kind of behind some sales racks. So you could see people in there, but you had to actually go in.
Right.
You had to go through the front third of the store to get back to where the track was. And then there it was, and all these people. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I can remember it was probably, I know, at least 8-10 years ago. I used to go to Darlington every year for the NASCAR race. And you got the haulers parked where you can walk around and get your souvenirs. And I'd be lying if I said there wasn't some adult beverages being consumed. And we were walking, and I was like, I know that noise. There's a slot car track around here somewhere.
Right.
People I were with were like, a what? And I was like, I'll show you. Come on. I just followed the sound. And there was a guy who actually had one of those fold-up ovals or whatnot, farming controllers. I think they had little hard body rental cars. I told all of them, I was like,
and that was probably, and his name totally escapes me nowadays.
Right.
There was a guy out of Florida that went to all the NASCAR races for several years.
Right.
At the portable track.
So that was the first year I seen it.
Okay.
I went 5 years in a row, maybe. And one of those 5 years, it was there.
Okay. And you might have
I
seen
talked to the guy, but I don't remember. It's been a lot of.
It was him and his wife, and like I said, they were out of Florida, and you might have seen them the last year they did it too, because they, like I said, they followed the circuit for 3 to 5 years, I think. And
because I went back 2 years ago. I actually went for the Bush, or I call it the Bush still, in the Cup race. They call it so many different names. It's Bush and Cup to me.
Right. And that guy would, in the off season of NASCAR, he custom painted slot car bodies and sold them. I can't remember his name. And someone will probably message and say that was
right. Oh yeah. That's the fun part about the show. Is afterwards, I always read some of the comments.
Or as soon as the show is over, I'll remember the guy's name. So
yeah. Or normally it's me watching the show saying that this is who it is.
Yeah, but that goes back. I mean, he was doing that in the mid to late '90s, and maybe into the early 2000s. But I don't remember exactly that time frame, or where he fit in that.
Time. He could tell. He was like, "You did this before." It's like, "Oh yeah, I've raced before." He was like, "I can always tell whenever I do these events who kind of knows what's the deal or whatnot." And he's like, "When you pulled around and kind of fixed your braid," I was like, "Yeah, he knows what's going on."
Well, I remember. So I don't remember exactly what year it was. I'll have to look it up. It was either 91 or 92. I went to the SEMA show in Las Vegas. And I was working at Parma at the time, and Parma used to have a booth at the SEMA show.
Right.
With the RC cars and stuff. So, we didn't sell or we didn't rent, we just displayed product. And so that year there was, I think it was a cigarette company. They had a 4-lane track, and no idea who built it. It was like you raced through a city, okay? And the idea was the person who did it the fastest would win some prize at the end of the day or something. So I didn't even know this was there. I mean, they had no connection to Parma. We didn't even know about this thing. And so I'm just walking through the show, probably before it opened or something, and kind of stumbled upon this track. I got pictures of it. I'll have to show it on a future show. And I think it was 4 lanes. You just stepped up, grabbed a controller, and they might have been womp-womps, but I'm not sure. But I think there was some kind of like countdown light clock thing, 3, 2, 1, go.
Right.
And the weirdest thing about it was there was 2 stoplights, and if they were red, you had to stop.
Nope.
Okay, so because if you didn't stop, then it put some kind of delay into your time, or your car quit running for half a second. Anyway, so I'm standing in line and I'm watching all these people running. I'm watching it, and I'm kind of like, if I can go through there real quick. I can get through that light before it changes, and I can get back. Right. I could run that lap nonstop. Yeah. So that's what happened. So I come around, and I remember I'm coming up to the first light, and it's still green, and some guy's like, "You got to stop for that light. You got to stop for that light." And I'm like, I didn't say. I'm just like, "It's green. I'm going."
Yeah.
And about the time I went through it, it turned red. I got the other light. And it was green, and I got through it right before it turned red, and it was like this incredible lap time. And this guy running the thing, he looked at me and he goes, "I think you've probably run slot cars before, haven't you?" And I said, "Yeah, just a couple of times." So I didn't claim my prize, but yeah, I was like half as fast as anybody else that day because everybody else had to stop twice. So yeah. But yeah, I got a picture. I'm standing there in a suit and tie.
I think I've seen that picture before.
With my controller.
I've seen the picture before.
Okay.
Yeah. I've seen other pictures of you before too, but
Wanted.
I'm sure that's for a different show. I think it was your birthday.
Public Enemy #1.
Yeah.
So
I think that's the other thing they're supposed to be doing next weekend. Is it next weekend? I keep getting the weekends, but for the Enduro at Randy's, they're throwing me a birthday party.
Oh.
So George is in charge of that. So
when's your birthday?
Birthday's on the 20th.
Oh, that's early, but that's okay.
Early, all my buddies will be there.
That's right. I won't be there, but all your other buddies will be there.
There's Virginia.
All right, so
maybe my buddy will buy me a power supply like I bought him in Chicago.
There you go. Yeah, how do you top that?
Yeah. He sat there and looked at it. I was like, do you want it? Nah. I was like, nah. He left. I looked at Roger. I was like, just give me the power supply.
Give me a power supply.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. And I remember we were packing up and you were like, well, my birthday just passed.
Where's
next year? Yeah.
So. Yeah, like I need another power supply.
But it worked out because like 4 o'clock in the morning, whenever it was my turn to drive, and I drove for an hour and was like tapping him, hey, it's your turn. It's like, I bought you a power supply.
Right.
Yeah. Good times.
Well, yeah, I guess next week will be kind of like the first test for those Phoenix motors too, as far as.
Right, because I think this coming week is the Womp Womp race at Randy's, and then the following week will be the Phoenix. And to my knowledge, there's only been one that's been went up in flames.
Okay.
And that's whenever we were testing Walker, he burnt his up. I think he said he had like 1,500 laps on it or something, but I mean,
it's a lot of laps.
It's hard to say. Yeah.
What do you predict will be the kind of winning lap total? Are you talking 2,000, 3,000 laps, or?
I want to say, like each one of us had a heat because we would just move lanes and kind of had a timer. And the most laps I think we turned, I think it was like 115, 120.
In 10 minutes?
In 10 minutes.
So
120. Our average lap time on Randy's track.
Okay, so 120 times 8 would be 960. So 1,820 laps roughly, or 1,920. 1,920 if you ran 120 and you ran a perfect race. So probably realistically 1,600 to 1,700 laps.
Well, you could probably get more because that was also with us coming off.
Oh, well, you're going to come off an Enduro.
So, but yeah, and I mean, we were averaging 3.7, 3.8 lap times.
Okay.
The good thing about it was I made the comment that we were still flashing because he had it set up kind of like in practice mode.
Right.
We were still flashing, fast time 7-8 minutes into the heat. So it wasn't like the motors were getting hot and falling off. They stayed pretty consistent.
Yeah, I've seen more good reports about it than bad reports. So.
Yeah, I like them. I mean, you've seen the posts where I was trying to get them kind of passed through for Mid-South for some of the guys who maybe couldn't afford.
Well, has that happened? Has that become an official thing yet, or is that still being decided?
I don't know.
Okay.
I guess it's still being decided. I've been checking the post every other day just to see where the percentage was, but I think last time I checked it, it was like 87% yes and 14% no or something like that.
So, yeah, but I mean, they had 50-some people vote. We know Mid-South doesn't have that many guys. So are they just the people who race in Mid-South votes, or?
I don't really know how they're doing it. I made the comment on there that, if you put a vote up and ask people's opinions, you're going to get it.
Right.
That's within.
Right. I mean, yeah, because the post didn't say this is for Mid-South racers only.
Yeah. And I mean, there's more than, I think, 200, 300 people that like the page.
Right. So I guess my question, so because we kind of talked about this the other day. So the GTP, Mid-South GTP class has always been a motor builders class, like C-Can, Super 16C motors.
Super 16C, Super Wasp, Contenders.
Okay, so anything up to a Super 16C.
Yes.
And most guys run Super 16C because they're the fastest.
Right.
So I guess my question is, if you're a serious C-Can builder racer and you've got this investment of time and money into your program, and now this $16 motor is allowed in.
Right.
It is competitive, maybe as fast, maybe a tick faster, maybe a tick slower. Does that put off the guys who've spent the money? Like, I mean, I can see that shattering some egos, where.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've been in that situation before because, I mean, I built all my stuff, and it's kind of like, really, we're going to run the sealed stuff. But I've always, I guess my take on it is if it gains more interest, because there's only a handful of us now that race, and I personally don't race as much as I used to just because I've decided to go to,
right,
you say, bigger races and kind of get out there a little bit more. But, I mean, as a motor builder myself, I can see where it's like, yeah, because I got all this money and tools and building stuff, but then it's like, if we lose one guy but we gain 5 guys because we're going to a cheaper alternative, I would rather race more people than less.
Right. So, yeah, because somebody had said, like, well, if those motors are slower, then you've got like this difference in speed between the different cars. Right. But you know what? You got that with, if everybody builds their motors, you have a difference in speed.
Right. And I mean, there's one guy, one of the last races I raced in GTP, he ran an FK motor.
Okay.
I mean, I was running a built motor. Bobby was running a built motor. Russell, I mean, there was 5 or 6 of us all running built motors. I mean, he did fine. He let us by in a straightaway, and for the most part, stayed out of the way.
Okay. So was that motor allowed per the rules, or was that just?
Yeah. No, you can race. Yeah.
Okay, so that class already allows for cheaper.
Right. I think it's Hawk 7s and FKs.
Okay.
And then you can run your boat motors.
Then there would really be no reason not to disallow this motor, is I guess if all that other stuff's allowed. I mean,
right. I just think a lot of people are worried that it's going to be faster.
It fits in between.
So, and I told them whenever I went to Randy's, I ran some pretty good lap times. And They were like, how does your lap times compare to your GTP car? And it's like, I didn't have a GTP body. Bobby didn't have a GTP body. But for the Enduro, we will to see exactly where it stands.
Right.
And I mean, if it's quick, then
you got to do proper back-to-back testing.
Right.
Put the two different motors in the same car, same day, same track. See where you're at. So, I mean, supposedly the Phoenix is as fast as a Group 12 motor, which is faster than a Super 16C.
Right.
But until it's tested, like I said, back to back, who knows for sure.
Right.
So
something I do have a GTP car with a built motor than have one with a Phoenix motor.
But if the Phoenix is just as fast as a Super 16C, or maybe a tick slower, it's still faster than the other allowed motors, which aren't as fast, and there's no reason it shouldn't be not allowed.
Yeah, it's like I think we talked, and I told you the fastest I can remember going at Randy's, the built GTP was a high 35.
Right.
And that's with the GTP body, and the fastest I went with the Phoenix motor, LMP, was with the LMP body was a 366.
Okay.
So it's like, I mean, you put a GTP body on it, I may gain that 10th, and then I'm equal.
And speaking of Phoenix motors, we got a couple to give away.
Yeah, I ask you. This will be the time that I win.
Oh, I hope not, because that'll look bad. All right.
You can pull Bobby's name.
Mid-America Phoenix motor number 1 goes to Joseph Vincent, which would be Chubby. Joe Salzman. Number 2. Wow. I think it's MB. His first name's MB, and I have to look up his last name. I think it's MB Love.
MB Love. He races at Randy's.
Oh, there you go. MB Love.
Make that 16 teams now because he has a motor. He just needs a partner.
So MB and Chubby, you need to get a hold of Roger at Mid-America.
I have to message Indy on Facebook.
He will mail those motors. You know what? It's the 4th of July. Roger, I'm going to give another one away. Forrest Hoover. So Forrest Hoover, you need to get a hold of Roger Schmidt at Mid-America. If Roger, if you're mad at me for giving away that many motors, well, he always wants to give away something. So,
right.
And he didn't call me and tell me what to give away. So hey,
there you go. I messaged you.
Shoot me between the lane. Shoot me with an M80. It's the 4th of July.
Yeah, just don't hit the trigger finger.
No. So that's kind of all I got.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty good. I can't think of anything. Want to do the word? What is it? The word of the show?
The secret word of the show, we're going to go with independence. Because it's the 4th of July.
Right.
So independence.
She was traveling and she said she's seeing one of those billboards that says, "Don't be a firework, don't drive lit." I was like, all right.
And a lot of people probably won't get this, but if you drive lit, or if you get hit by a lit driver, no pun intended, call the hammer. That's an attorney up here. He's got billboards everywhere. Call the hammer. If you've been involved in an auto accident, call the hammer. So, yeah, the hammer. If you really want to let them know you mean business, teller and teller. You ever seen those ads?
We got lawyers' offices down here that have all kinds of. We got the general.
Oh, okay, the general. We got the hammer. You got the general.
We got the general. He has all kinds of funny commercials. I'm trying to think if there's any other ones. The only one that really stands out that I remember is the general, because he's got like a little cartoon character of the general walking around and stuff. And then you got the ones called something 99999, and all. Then that reminds me of the lap counter sometimes. Whenever they go 9999.
Yeah, that's RT with the famous missed 99999 lap. Yeah. All right, well, thanks for coming on the show.
Oh yeah.
We'll probably get you on the show down the road and maybe ask you more questions about your slot racing history, and
maybe I can fill the void of the Womp Womp race.
See, there you go. You could be our special correspondent next week if you go.
It's a possibility.
Okay. It's a possibility.
Yeah, I kind of want to go, but then it's like I'm going up there the following week. I'm sure after tonight I'll have more messages. So
what is it, like 2 hour ride up there for you or something?
About 3.5.
Okay.
It depends on traffic, really.
Right.
And then George has already said I can stay with him. I'm sure Bobby won't care if I stay with him. So basically just get gas money, and maybe I can put that in my contract. If you pay for gas and feed me, I will race your car.
Well, it kind of sucks going to the same place to race 2 weeks in a row. But
it's two different types of cars, though. So it's not really.
No. I mean, that's just a trip. Like 3 hours there.
Right.
Like you go 1 week, it's 3 hours there, 3 hours back. It's like, we went to Chicago 2 weeks ago.
Right.
3 hours up. I think we set new record time getting up there. Traffic was.
Yeah, I think we talked about that. You looked and you're like, wow, we're here kind of early.
Yeah, coming back, got stopped on the highway for over an hour and a half or something, and turned into a 5.5 hour trip home. And then, last weekend we went up there pretty good, and we got back pretty good. But, coming back, we ran through rain, and everyone's, going 75, 80, and as soon as it starts raining, then they all hit their brakes and jam things up. And
yeah, I call that welcome to Charleston.
Yeah, and then we got into the NASCAR caravan that was leaving Chicagoland heading back south, and I mean those guys were getting it. Get behind them and.
Oh yeah, getting the convoy, get on the CB, and get breaker 19.
Yeah, because we passed a couple, and then up the road or down the road, we kind of caught the convoy with 10 or 12 of them at least, and past a few of them and get off on our exit. But
yeah, I've had record time getting the bobbies, and then there was one time. It's kind of a funny story. We left, headed to his house. There was a big accident on 26 before you get to 77. You ever seen these trucks that carry these big, long concrete beams? I think they use for and whatnot. Yeah. Apparently, one of them jackknifed and took up the whole 77 lane. So it's like 3 lanes of traffic getting off onto 1 lane to run backwoods. You know, and in my head, I'm like, I know where I'm at because I ran these roads before, just delivering construction material or whatnot. So I was like, all right, but you had people who didn't know. So it turned a getting there by 7, 8 o'clock trip into probably, I think I got there at about 11:30. The fun part about it was I get there, Bobby's like, we're going to sleep. Here's the key code. Let yourself in. No problem. Simple enough. So we get there. It's wintertime, so it's kind of cold. I'm punching the keypad. Nothing's happening. And I'm just like, really? I try it again. And for whatever reason, I thought it was a good idea to call my mom. I was like, hey, I can't get in this house. I think I'm going to slip in my truck,
Right.
And she's like, well, it's kind of cold. And I was like, well, oddly enough, I have a blanket that I'll sometimes throw over my stuff just so if it moves around, it don't pick anything up. So I was like, well, I can recline the seat and it's cold enough. I should sleep all right. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try this one more time. I go up there, punch in the code, it opens. It's like, sweet. Well, here's the funny part. It was Halloween, and I didn't know they had a damn fake witch there that with movement lights up. I turn around, this thing's lit up with its green eyes, hands are up like this, and Bobby's dog, Roxy, jumps on me, and I lose it. So kind of a on story about, so I told Bobby, I was like, hey, from now on, dude, you got to take that down if I'm coming in.
Take that battery out.
Yeah, because his wife loves decorating for the kids or what. I mean, it was cool, it was good, but the next morning he was like, "What was that noise?" I was like, if I had my gun, I would have shot something, So he was like, "Yeah, it was good stuff." And then the door shut, and I'm thinking, great. I left my bag out in my truck, and I was like, "I'm going to bed. I'll deal with it in the morning." So, woke up the next morning and told Bobby the story, and I think we laughed about it the whole ride. I think we were racing in Concord that week.
Okay.
That was my good record and non-record stories, but generally it's about 3.5 hours.
Okay. Well, as I always say at the end of the show, if you're going racing this weekend or whatever you're doing, be safe and be careful and have fun and have a good time. And we will be back next Wednesday night, I'm guessing, at 8 p.m. for episode number 48. So, secret word is independence. And you got any last words?
Just everyone have a happy and safe 4th of July.
Yes. Okay. Till next week.
Don't forget to wear your racing socks.
As we used to say, goggles, safety shields on, goggles down.
Make sure your belts are tight.
That's right. Keep your hands and feet in the cart until the cart comes to a complete stop.
Yeah. And no bumping.
Enjoy your time at Cedar Point.